Hey boneheads, have you missed us? Trust me, we've been busy in the kitchen making some delicious wild game recipes, but we're gonna hold off on some of those and start to release them this fall. But I came across a really nice surprise. My boss decided to spoil us with some fresh basil. Hard to beat that. So we gotta put this thing to use, and I thought this would be perfect for our Pheasant Tuscan Pasta. It's delicious. I started making this about 1.5 years ago. It's packed full of flavor and it's easy to make. You can do it really quick. The family's gonna love it. There's no gamey flavor whatsoever. A couple different variations you can do on it. You can even do a healthy version, which we'll point out along the way. I'm excited to cook this. I'm hungry myself. So stick around. We're gonna show you how we make our Tuscan pheasant pasta with fresh basil. So for this recipe, I'm using 2 pheasants. That means I've got 4 breasts, and then I've got some thigh meat and leg meat. Don't sleep on that. That dark meat's really good. Go ahead and cut that up. I'm using some small chunks about the size of a quarter, but you can adjust that to your liking. And then I've got my ingredients sent out here. We're keeping it pretty healthy this go around. So I've got that whole wheat linguine, our fire roasted tomatoes, some basil, some Italian seasoning. I'm gonna start with those fire roasted tomatoes. Get those out there after they've been drained and then chop them up. Now for seasoning our meat, go ahead and use whatever seasonings you prefer. As you can see here, I'm gonna throw a little bit of garlic in here, top it with a little olive oil for my seasoning stick. I'm using a lot of Italian seasoning, and then I've also got a pasta seasoning. I forgot to take a picture of it, but I'm gonna mix that in here as well. And don't go light on that seasoning. You want to pack as much flavor into here as possible. As you can see now, I'm throwing a little fresh pepper, a little bit of salt on here as well. Now that we got our pan nice and hot, I'm going to throw that pheasant on there. And you really don't have to cook this all the way through. You're just looking to get the outside, a little bit of tar on there, get a little bit of color, kind of brown it, and then we're ready for the next step. Now that that meat's taken on a little bit of color, we're going to go ahead and throw in those diced tomatoes and start to mix that in. We're gonna get that pasta going, which means we're about 10-12 minutes, and go ahead and being ready to eat now. While that pasta is cooking, we're gonna go ahead and start with our sauce. I'll put the ingredients and measurements in the comments, but I'm making this with some almond milk. You can use whole milk or whatever your preference is. We're keeping it a little healthy today, so I've got the almond milk. And then I'm putting in a couple tablespoons of flour. I'm gonna mix that up and also throw a little seasoning in here. Got all the clumps of flour out, so we're gonna pour that into our hot pan. Mix that up a little bit, give it a stir, and then you wanna bring it up to a nice simmer. Don't forget about some of that spinach. We're gonna toss a couple handfuls in here. Let that start to wilt down. You wanna do this at the very end when you're just a couple minutes from being ready to eat. You can also put a little bit of pasta water in here if you'd like, but this is already looking pretty good. Now you know we're getting close when it's time to put that pasta in. So I went ahead and drained the pasta. Now I'm gonna toss it in here and let it start to absorb some of those flavors. Really settle in, get it nice and mixed before we dish it up. Little Parmesan here at the end, and you are ready to eat. All right, boneheads, I'm telling you what, this just smells good. The whole house smells good. I'm telling you, your family's gonna be ready to eat this. Last step, take a little bit of that fresh basil, get yourself a boss as good as mine to share some of that from their garden. Get in there, get some of those sun-dried tomatoes, that creamy pasta, and that pheasant. Bon appetit. And there you have it, guys. Nice excuse to pull some pheasant out of the freezer, make your family a little pasta. Enjoy.